Put your hands up in the air, cause this is Cinema Recap. Today's score is Inside Man.
What's with you, Miss Goyam? Go ahead!
The smartest heist you'll ever see. So grab your drills and let's get into these spoilers.
My name is Dalton Russell.
Sup, Dalton? He looks like he's about to recap. Wait, that's my job. Yeah, we all see where this is going. I'll take over from here, thank you. Whatever cryptic riddles he's saying, it involves some prison. So you know this is gonna be about a crime. Let's get to the beloved Manhattan Bank. Woo! What's this? Colonel Sanders entering a sussy van. Already off to a fishy start. Looks like these guys aren't Colonel Sanders, but I guess they look more like beekeepers, or rather industrial painters. It does say that on their van. So the painters load up some paint cans, construction tools, and are probably off to renovate that unsuspecting bank a little bit. Those Banksy boys make their way to the bank, and soon, one by one, the security cameras go dark, and the painters lock up the front entrance. And it's time for the Pacific Standard heist. The Manhattan Trust heist. Everyone screams and panics. The guards are suppressed and the smoke grenades are scattered.
Keep your head down, fat man!
All right!
Okay, man, you have him at gunpoint. No need to fat shame the guy. Everyone's down on the ground, while the public hasn't been alerted, except for this one officer who
I have got hostages.
Oh, it's hero time. Here's our main guy for today. This is Detective Keith Frazier. Keith here talks to his girlfriend because he got screwed by a dealer. He's in a bit of hot water with some financial problems, and his wife is scolding him. You know, usual stuff. After that, things get a bit steamy for their goodbyes.
Big Willie and the twins.
Snarky Earth Saver over there is Detective Bill Mitchell. They share a little banter about Keith's family. Then someone comes over to break the news of a bank robbery and a hostage situation at the Manhattan Trust Bank. Detective takes that case and leaves with Bill.
Bad guys, here I come.
The boys in blue quickly surround the bank with cruisers, officers, and SWAT units as far as the eye can see. They assemble mostly at the front, then they lock the streets up with tape and metal barriers because that crowd is beginning to form. Onward to a more peaceful place, we meet Arthur Case. He's one of the heads of the bank franchise, and he's notified that there's a robbery at one of their branches. The old man should sit this one out while detectives Keith and Bill come on scene. The cop that first knew about the robbery, Sergeant Collins, gets him up to speed about this incident. After they get that intel, Keith says he's free to go, but he wants to stay and help. Chad move. In the bank, the armed painters move people to the complex where the vault is.
All bank employees, raise your hand!
They segregate the bank employees from the normies, and then ask everyone to raise cell phones and keys. Once the goods are in the air, they're collected in a sack. We've got ourselves a hero, boys. And this here is Peter Hammond. Painters think he's lying about his phone being left at home, so they go through all the collected phones, until they call his phone and it rings from a nearby office. Hey man, could be a hobo living in that office. Well, they accept his forgiveness, for about 21 seconds. Yeah, I counted. Then he gets socked. Game ended. Then he asks the crowd for another hero, so put your shaky hands together for Vikram Walia. He gives up his keys and then some kid offers his PSP, but the heist leader is more of a Nintendo Switch kind of guy. Next hostage duty, everyone goes almost buck nude, except for a granny, so the revolver comes out.
Go ahead! Make my day!
The leader calls on Stevie to take her away, and then the leader asks him to wear these suits and masks. News picks up on the situation, and we meet Captain Darius. Gobby over here says that they're blind to what's happening inside the bank. Then he gives the two detectives some Kevlar vests to eat with at the diner down the street. They're serving Glocks down there. Back in the bank, some dude's got that bat virus. No, wait, it's a heart condition. The crooks take him away, then they release some guy outside.
They sent me down here!
Looking to get healthcare early. He gives the coppers a warning if they come too close. They'll let the bodies hit the floor. He snitches that there's 4 robbers in there. Later, a gentleman who seems to be one of the hostages gets interviewed about the situation back then. Well, the action doesn't stop there as the crime gang have successfully opened the vault. They head to some storage room and one of them says that the normal looking box is beautiful. It's a vivid imagination. Soon, at some prestigious apartment, a little interview between the Vincent Vega looking guy and this blonde woman carries on, until this gentleman says Arthur Case is on the phone for her. The suit thanks Miss Madeline White, then he leaves, and she's in a bit of disbelief before talking to Arthur. Arthur, despite being an old dog, is asking Miss White out on a little tryst. Oh, you sly boy. Returning to the insanity. Another freed hostage expresses his displeasure of meeting the bank crooks, yet he compliments how brilliant and strategic they executed the heist.
All I know is that they called each other a variation of Steve.
I hope Stevie Wonder's not in it with him. Keith is thinking this schmuck is lying. Then the accused says that he was too busy being held at gunpoint by AK-47s. Next accused is this sourdough-looking man. The staff puffed look-alike says that he's never stolen anything in his life other than a nickel from his Polish grandma. Darius comes by and says that the old man hostage they just got out is fine, and provides info that if anyone gets too close to the door, 2 bodies will be disposed of. The old man also says there's mostly likely 4 perps dressed as painters. Green Goblin also reports that the entire bank block is surrounded, and all comms are routed to them, so they're the only ones they're gonna call. The detective decides they're gonna wait for the robber's first move. In the seaside nearby, Miss White and Arthur go for a little stroll. Then Miss White knows that Arthur's safety deposit box at the bank has something explicitly valuable to him. So she clears it up a bit, saying that if anything like a nuclear missile launch code is in that box, well then their deal is done. Arthur reassures her that there's nothing dangerous inside that box. He just wants no one to ever touch it.
So it stays locked or it disappears.
Guess they have a deal. Back at the bank heist, the leader sees Steve digging a hole in the storage room, and then he calls for Steve-O. Just outside, Detective Bill found the heist vehicle. They think it might have been stolen, so they check for some clues. Detective Keith then calls the bank, but the leader doesn't pick up. Suddenly, they get footage from inside the bank, but the perps knocked out the cameras with infrared lights, so they're back to square one. Sometime later, this woman gets interviewed on her experience. Then she divulges information to the detectives that she's heard one of them ordering for the cameras to be fixed. She breaks down in a bit because of her traumatizing experience of being held at gunpoint and getting rid of most of her clothes. A dodgy way of cheering her up is jokes, I guess, so you do you. Moments later, a hostage gets freed swiftly, and it's Vikram. There's something around his neck, so the SWAT remove it. Then they remove his turban, maybe looking for some deadly materials. Buildings away, Miss White and the mayor enjoy their well-refined, pleasant endeavors. Up until the doors close and all the swear words break loose, Miss White wants that favor of being a part of that operations team happening down at the bank robbery. Let's see if he gives in to her requests. The news media reports about the robbery, then Vikram's at the diner with the law boys, forcing him to give him his turban back. Detective Bill makes it a point that lives are at stake, so they need the information now. Vikram agrees and thinks there were 4 of them and about 20 to 30 hostages. Poor guy's always getting discriminated. The rest of the investigation team opened that thing they found on Vikram earlier, and it's apparently a letter to him. There's enough explosives in that bank to make the second Pearl Harbor, and they're demanding fully gassed buses and a jet as an escape. It's either that or a hostage gets game ended starting at 9 p.m. that day. Keith wants to talk to him before they get anything. Then Arthur visits him. He wants to help, but they have nothing planned at the moment, so they escort him to a safer location. Eventually, the perps come out with a message.
50 hungry people need food now.
Who's up for KFC? Looks like they went with Pizza Hut. At first, they thought about putting a secret audio recorder inside those boxes, but Keith doesn't want to screw with them. Let's go check in on our endangered hostages, shall we? One is being too rowdy, and he doesn't care if they game end him, so they come by and beat him like a sunny side egg. This soy boy hostage got released, and says that one guy did most of the talking and the ordering. He says they could barely make out what they were saying cause 1, he's got hearing problems, and 2, the hostages were kept in rooms. The 2 detectives think that Funko Pop collector's lying though. Willem Dafoe and pizza. All they need is Toby. Well, lunch is on time, and it's a bit heated at first, but Detective Keith fizzles out that situation. They take the pizzas. He offers his number. Then they leave. Like a one-night stand. I guess they really did put transmitters in those pizzas, cause it's filled with Makarov's voice. Then they call out for any translators. Robbers don't waste any time as they begin moving hostages to different rooms. Then one of them fakes being a hostage to blend in with them. Another one is switched out into another room. This one guy over here gets interviewed and he provides a lot of info on his fellow hostages, including one girl he's remembering, thanks to his amazing male gaze. To our next interview, it's the supposed girl that's rather well endowed. She's blaming the Sid Vicious looking guy for endangering the rest of them, but the 2 detectives are rather distracted. Eyes up here, sweetie. Somewhere later, Stevie's cleaning up the hole they dug. At the force, a cop's taking a listen to the audio audio they heard from inside, but even he doesn't know exactly what it is. He's thinking Central European. They play it through the speakers and ask if anyone knows what language this is. And looks like we have a winner, and we have a random construction worker. He says he's Albanian. He can't really speak the language, but thanks to his alimonies, he knows it's Albanian. So Keith tries to send someone over. Bill gets the info on the van, as it was stolen, but there's no prints. Meanwhile, the kid with the PSP gets to stay separately with one of the perps inside the vault. The perp plays a bootleg version of San Andreas and asks what's the point of the game, which the kid responds,
Get rich, die trying.
Kid's looking like he admires the perp a bit. At the Force's van, Keith has no choice but to make the construction worker call his Albanian ex-wife. Eventually, this trashy lady comes in, asking for a parking ticket exemption. The gall of this woman. Until she reveals that the talking is just a now game-ended president of Albania. It's a ruse, using a recorded track all along. Well, the other sneaky thing about him is that they open a specific safety deposit box and take some documents. Sirens ringing all around, meaning the mayor's nearby. He introduces Detective Keith to Miss White, which offers some discreet help to him. Afterwards, Keith actually gets a hold of the leader on the phone. Basically, the entire conversation is that the leader wants his demands, or he starts another no Russian situation. Hours later, and the leader is still not getting his plane, but Keith is asking for more time. He instead gets a trick question to answer, but his team helps it out, and he gets it right. Does he get $1 million? No, but he does get the privilege of giving them sandwiches. Well, the hole in the storage room is done. It gets darker, and the detective calls his wife for reassurance. Too bad he missed out on mad piping. Then he picks up Miss White and calls the leader for permission to come in. She's got 10 minutes, so they search her, and she offers the leader 3 years and $2 million. He declines that, and instead brings up the hinted opportunistic war profiteering of Arthur Case. Well, she's in a bit of a tussle, so he brings out his trump card, Arthur Case's Austrian painter certification and documents. Well, if he gets out of here with those documents, Miss White and her associates are willing to offer a lot of money for it. 10 minutes is up, so debriefing time with Detective Keith. She said all they talked about is how it was possible for them to get off on a lighter sentence. But Keith knows his leg's being pulled. She doesn't give him any specifics, but Miss White basically gave the leader an incentive, to which he declined. Then Miss White and the detective get off on friendly terms. Trust me. Let's meet our next contestant, Brian, the 8-year-old with the PSP. He says the leader just asked him about the GTA bootleg. Brian's out. Next is some small-time crook, and another malding suit, and a second well-endowed woman. Stonewalled with all the lack of progress, Detective Keith realizes that the leader may be stalling, and they don't know why exactly.
Your plane is ready.
In exchange for the plane, Detective Keith wants to get in the bank to secure any hostages and make sure bodies won't hit the floor today. The leader agrees to this and asks him to meet him at the front door. He gets the end of a barrel and a frisk. Then he's cleared. Well, except for the gunpoint.
Would you like some gum?
I'd like a piece, to be honest. After the gum rejection, the detective takes a look at the crying and weary hostages. He wants to take the kid with the PSP, but of course, he declines. One more peek at the miscreants, and the tour is over. Detective Keith is baffled on how the leader's stalling with the plane and threatens lethal action. But the leader thinks he's BSing, cause none of the hostages have gotten game ended yet. Then they talk about the detective's girlfriend.
Money can't buy love.
Well, he's learning so much on this little tour, but sadly, the chief gets greedy. He tried to unmask him, but an AK-47 and Butterfingers prevented that. Now the leader's ticked. He's demanding buses now. The detective leaves scot-free, and he says that he has him right where he wants him. The leader's asking Steve how long for the hole, and he says it's going to take at least 2 hours. Keith, on the other hand, talks to Captain Darius about the entire heist being planned, and he thinks he's up to something more of the non-violent side. The leader calls and asks him to look up onto the second floor window through the camera. Boom. Game over for that guy. So much for non-violent. He rushes to the leader and says if the detective screws with him again, there's gonna be more gamer shots. The detective clams down and asking him what he really wants. Then Keith asks to be shot. Man's got some heavy balls, so the leader doesn't fire. Captain Coughlin comes in to roast Keith's tuchus and says Darius is now in charge. Darius tries to think of a plan, but it's kinda disastrous, so they go with painter disguises and rubber bullets. After the police meet, Detective Keith reveals to Bill that he can cut a deal with the mayor and Miss White to wash his hands clean of all of this. Keith needs some cheering up despite that deal, so he talks to Sergeant Collins about the time he got held at gunpoint by a 12-year-old. He also tones down his offensive behavior, citing who knows who could be listening. Cue light bulb. There it is. They got bugged. They were listening this entire time. Despite being warned, Darius will still storm in. The crooks hear this and they evacuate everyone. An explosion welcomes the hostages out. Then some of them are greeted with rubber bullets. The cops suppress the crowd and then SWAT moves in. They found nothing robbed, nor no one game ended. They swarmed the joint and...
You're gonna love this one. Toy guns.
So you're telling us these guys totally robbed a bank with Nerf blasters. Awesome. Well, that and the fake shooting of that guy. Outside, the hostages get loaded on a police bus, but not before they're all screened. Time passes, and even after a lot of questioning and investigation, they can't point anyone out as the suspects. Since they can't reach a conclusion, Detective Keith is ordered by Captain Coughlin to abandon the case. Well, he does make a good point since no one was really killed and nothing was really stolen. Well, still digging into it, the detective then finds that there's no record of safety deposit box number 392. He smells something's fishy, so he goes to a judge. Then he's blackmailing Miss White. She spills that Arthur Case went into hiding. So much for hiding, as Miss White immediately finds Arthur in a secret barber shop. She reports that the detective is under control. The Austrian painter documents are with the robber leader. Arthur admits that he did business with the Austrian painter army before. Miss White thinks that something else of value was stolen from the bank that no one else knew about. Diamonds and rings coming from a treacherous and grim history. Well, to keep her from talking, Arthur gives her a blank check and she bounces. Remember Dalton Russell? Well, he robbed the bank for two things: money and a shortcut to the bank storage room. At the same time, detectives Bill and Keith are coming to the bank. He actually and literally bumps into Keith, but no one bats an eye. Keith and Bill check that safety deposit box, while the leader's buddies say that he's left something in that box, to which he left it on purpose for Keith: the ring.
Follow the ring.
A bit later on, and Keith and Bill visit Arthur, and they corner him on what happened. Nice ring, Keith. He follows it to the mayor and barges in for war crimes. Soon, Keith is finally home, even takes home the first grade certification, and the surprise of a diamond. Looks like the perp left him a parting gift, and you better cash in, cause that's it for Inside Man. So what'd you guys think about this clever movie? Why don't you let us know in the comment section below with that hashtag cinema recap. This was Inside Man by Universal Pictures, starring Denzel Washington, Clive Owen, and Willem Dafoe. Really love having you guys here. Thanks for chilling with us. Until the next Inside Job, see you around.